Recently, former mainland Chinese media personality Zhao Lanjian posted on social media that the Hebei district government in Tianjin was unable to pay salaries in March and had borrowed several hundred million yuan from the local Dabei temple to sustain its operations until July. By July, the government again faced financial difficulties and attempted to borrow additional funds from Dabei temple. This time, however, the temple declined to lend more money, denying that they were previously approached for donations as such. After this information became public, the Hebei district government in Tianjin promptly announced an environmental order special rectification campaign specifically targeting the Dabei temple area. During the 2-month rectification period, the temple is prohibited from opening for business, conveniently covering the lucrative Mid-Autumn Festival and Golden Week holidays, which are traditionally peak income seasons for the temple. Netizens unanimously view this as a retaliatory move by the government. On September 10th, a driver employed by the Tianjin Public Transportation Group disclosed on social media that from June this year onward, the group has not been paying salaries and has also discontinued employee insurance. The employees still had to work from morning until late at night with no pay. The driver had no choice but to rely on financial support from his parents. The Tianjin Public Transportation Group, a state-owned enterprise engaged in urban public transport, has 43 fully and partially owned subsidiaries and 1 directly affiliated business unit. As of 2022, the group employs 18,700 people, operates 548 routes, and has a fleet of 6,541 vehicles. On September 16th, a tweet from a Chinese blogger with over 1 million followers revealed that the debt ratios in various counties and districts of Tianjin range between 300% and 800%, with Jishen and Ninghe exceeding 1,000%. According to broader calculations, 5 counties have debt ratios between 1,000% and 2,500%. At the same time, in 2022, revenues from land sales plummeted, pushing companies like Tianjin Real Estate Group to the brink of bankruptcy. Tianjin TEDA Investment Holding and Tianjin Binghai New Area are now also done for and only exist in name. The blogger also mentioned that Tianjin, with its 15 million population, currently has the highest urban debt ratio in the country, far exceeding that of Guizhou and Yunnan. As early as April 12th of this year, the Guizhou Provincial Government Development Research Center disclosed on social media that local debt in Guizhou was severe and beyond the province's capacity to manage. The center had conducted field research in Guiyang, Gui'an, Zhunyi, Bijie, and Liupanshui, and found that resolving the local debt issue was challenging due to limited fiscal capacity. The center plans to seek intellectual support from the National Research Center to find feasible solutions. In recent years, Guizhou, an impoverished mountainous province, has built several impressive bridges and overpasses in an effort to open up economically. However, today, the province finds itself unable to repay an estimated debt of around 1.24 trillion yuan. According to 2020 rankings of debt ratios in major mainland cities, Guiyang, the provincial capital of Guizhou, has a staggering urban debt ratio of 929%. Financial strains have become a headache for local governments across China as revenues from land sales have fallen significantly. Since 2021, there have been reports of salary cuts and hiring freezes for civil servants across various regions of China, especially in economic developed coastal regions like Jiangsu, Zhejiang, Guangdong, and Fujian. A news report on July 9th, titled "Significant Salary Cuts for Civil Servants Across China," stated that a recent meeting in Guangdong concluded that civil servants who used to earn 12,000 yuan per month will now receive only 9,000 yuan, and those earning 15,000 yuan will now get 11,000 yuan. Salary cuts of 25% in Zhejiang, 15% in Jiangsu, and 20% in Fujian have also been reported. Even major cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen are struggling, raising questions about how much more salaries might be cut in less developed regions. The reason for the salary cuts is a significant reduction in financial income from land sales, which is insufficient to support the government's public expenditure. Amid drastic salary cuts for local government employees, waves of layoffs among civil servants are also sweeping through the bureaucracy. According to a report published on August 23 by Taiwan's Liberty Timesnet, titled "Deteriorating Local Finances in a Southwestern Province in China May Lead to a 20% Reduction in Civil Servants," Beijing plans to issue 1.5 trillion yuan in special refinancing bonds in the latter half of the year. However, a certain southwestern province that is to receive a larger quota of these special bonds may have to pay the price by downsizing its civil servants by 20%. Recent years have seen a surge in news stories about financial crises in local governments across China, especially during the 3 years of implementation of the zero-COVID policy by CCP leader Xi Jinping. With a large number of businesses closed, community lockdowns, and massive expenditures on nucleic acid tests and the construction of quarantine facilities, the financial situation of already struggling local governments has further deteriorated. As a multitude of real estate companies default on their debts, the land-based fiscal model, which heavily relies on land sales revenue, is coming to an end. Amid an increasingly severe financial crisis that can no longer be concealed, local governments are drowning in debt, salaries for civil servants are being cut, and there are even reports of already disbursed bonuses being clawed back. The financial crisis plaguing the Chinese government is not only a snapshot of China's distorted economic growth, but also a cumulative result of its long-standing structural economic problems. Xi Jinping's high-cost foreign economic aid, initiation of the Belt and Road Initiative, construction of the Xiong'an New Area, a new government administrative hub, have cost trillions of yuan. Furthermore, conflicts with developed Western nations, such as the United States, have accelerated the intensity of the crisis. The origins of today's financial crisis mainly stem from 3 areas. Firstly, local governments are highly dependent on land-based finance. In 1994, to alleviate the central government's revenue shortages, China reformed its tax system, establishing separate tax systems for the local and central governments. Due to the central government taking away 75% of value-added tax, local governments lost their revenue-generating capacity through operating township and village enterprises. To solve this problem, the central government allowed local governments to engage in land management, which evolved into a fiscal model that relies heavily on revenue from transferring land use rights. By 2021, such revenue accounted for 42.5% of local total income, effectively becoming the second treasury. However, with the bursting of the real estate bubble, this model has become unsustainable. Secondly, local government financing platforms have turned into financial black holes. These platforms, including various types of companies like urban construction investment companies, city development companies, and urban asset management companies, focus on channeling bank loans and private funds into municipal construction and public utility projects. Local governments take on the debt responsibilities, known as city investment bonds, and often borrow heavily to fund low-efficiency or even long-term loss-making infrastructure projects. These financing platforms have gradually become the black holes in China's financial system. According to a Bloomberg report dated May 23rd, Goldman Sachs estimates that China's total government debt amounts to around 23 trillion US dollars, including off-the-book loans from thousands of financing companies set up by provinces and cities. The report suggests that debt-ridden local governments will have to cut spending or divert funds from growth-promoting projects to continue repaying their debts. On August 12th, RFI issued a report titled, "Chinese Local Government Debt Exceeds 94 Trillion Yuan. Beijing Sends Working Groups to Check the Books." The RFI report said that China's State Council has dispatched working groups to more than 10 of the worst financially performing provinces to find ways to reduce debt and then report directly to Premier Li Qiang. This is Beijing's most significant top-down approach in years to tackle the local government debt problem, reflecting concerns about financial stability risks as China's economy stumbles. The third aspect is China's expenditure of at least 352 billion yuan, approximately 50.7 billion US dollars, on COVID-19 prevention and control in 2022. The CCP's extreme zero-COVID policy over the past 3 years has depleted local finances, piling up government debt and posing a risk of default. According to annual budget reports from local Chinese governments, provinces in China spent at least 352 billion yuan solely on pandemic control measures in 2022. Adding insult to injury, tax reduction policies implemented by the central government to stimulate the economy have further decreased local government revenues. Moreover, the central government's crackdown on property developers has led to a nationwide real estate crisis, further eroding local government revenue. Income from land sales typically accounts for more than 30% of local government income. Between 2019 and 2021, this figure was about 40%, but in 2022, revenue from land sales fell by nearly a third compared to the previous year. With increased expenditures and decreased revenue, local governments find themselves in a financial quagmire and have resorted to debt issuance. According to statistics from Chinese domestic media, as of the end of 2022, the debt ratios of various provinces in China were all on the rise, with Heilongjiang, Xinjiang, Tianjin, and Guizhou seeing the most significant increases, each surpassing 400%. The mounting debts have made it increasingly difficult for local governments to make repayments. Several factors, such as the accelerated exit of foreign enterprises, a sharp reduction in foreign exports, a long-term bear market in stocks, and the large-scale closure of private businesses, have also directly or indirectly led local governments into financial crises. To salvage the dire situation, a flurry of recent policies have been announced by the CCP. According to a Bloomberg report dated July 4th, major state-owned banks in China are offering ultra-long-term loans to local government financing vehicles, LGFVs, while temporarily waiving interest payments. Insiders reveal that banks like the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China and China Construction Bank have started offering 25-year loans to select LGFVs, much longer than the typical 10-year corporate loans. Some of these loans even come with a 4-year grace period for interest or principal payments, although the interest will accrue later. This move has heightened concerns about the financial vulnerability of local governments in mainland China. In addition, after the Politburo of the CCP proposed implementing a comprehensive debt plan at a meeting at the end of July, China's Ministry of Finance is reportedly set to issue about 1 trillion yuan in local government refinancing bonds, leveraging previously unused annual caps to help local governments repay hidden debts. An insider mentioned that the ministry recently held a meeting clarifying that aside from Beijing, Shanghai, Guangdong, and Tibet, quotas for refinancing bonds will be allocated to governments of other provinces. Addressing the persistently sluggish real estate market, a Voice of America report dated September 1st claimed that China's regulatory authorities have uniformly reduced the interest rates for both first and second home loans and lowered the down payment ratio policy floor. At the same time, local governments in cities like Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Zhengzhou, Beijing, and Chongqing have rolled out various measures such as home recognition without loan recognition, effectively eliminating existing home purchase loan restrictions. This policy means that consumers are no longer restricted by various loan restrictions, allowing them to enjoy favorable conditions on down payments and interest rates when buying a second home. However, industry experts point out that lowering the entry barrier and cost for home buyers will also increase the monthly mortgage burden. The primary reason for the market downturn is that consumers have limited funds at their disposal. The uncertainty about the economy and the lack of future security make them hesitant to purchase homes, and not many are enthusiastic that these policies will prompt them to buy houses. Despite the CCP's frequent rollout of policies to rescue the economy and local government finances, these measures have not resolved the fundamental contradiction between the autocratic political system and the free market economy, leaving the economy in a dilemma. No matter how many market-rescuing policies are implemented, the stimulus is but a drop in the bucket for an already critically ill Chinese economy. Finally, we conclude this program with the recently viral internet article, which goes like this. The Economic Observer recently graced us with a riveting exposé titled The Finance Bureau Chiefs in the Past 6 Months. Buckle up because you're going to love how these 3 Finance Bureau chiefs have been breaking a sweat. The office is like a money-grabbing circus every day, but fear not, the fiscal cupboard is so bare, projects get sent packing before they even sit down. The fiscal revenue is dwindling, but hey, it doesn't look so bad. Why? Because we're playing financial hot potato, shifting money from one pocket to the other. Magic. There's a veritable army of retirees, and those pesky fixed expenditures just won't budge. Retirement parties galore, but who's footing the bill? Local debt interests are sky high. Seriously, who needs the stock market when you can bet on spiraling local debt? They're speeding up the clean-out of shell companies that were gobbling up financial kickbacks. Remember the good old days when these companies were cash cows? Cleaning up the hidden debts in their jurisdiction. Packaging those subpar special purpose bonds like they're A-list celebrities just to pretty up the financial data, because presentation is everything, right? 3/4 of their energy is spent on inspections, document preparation, and reporting. Who knew bureaucracy could be so time-consuming? Numerous localities are breaking the bank trying to cover the basic 3 guarantees: operation, salaries, and social welfare. It's like a financial game of whack-a-mole. Tax revenue is stagnant and non-tax revenue is plummeting. But don't worry, there's a master plan. Issue more bonds and beg for handouts from higher-ups. The overall impression after reading the article is that it's challenging to cut expenses and even more difficult to generate revenue. Local finances and the national economy are teetering on the brink of collapse, with the risk of a financial bomb exploding at any moment.